Welcome to English in Fluency. I'm your host, Alex, and I am so glad you're here with me today. Seriously, whether you found this channel yesterday or you've been with us for a while, I just want to say you made a really good choice by sitting down and practicing your English right now. That decision? That's already motivation in action. And guess what? That's exactly what today's lesson is all about. So here's what I want you to think about before we dive in. Have you ever been in a conversation in English and someone said something that felt really energizing? Like their words just pushed you forward somehow? Maybe a teacher encouraged you. Maybe a friend told you they believed in you. Maybe a stranger said something small, but it stuck with you for days. That feeling, that little fire inside your chest, that's what motivation sounds like. And today, we're going to learn how to hear it, understand it, and use it in English. Because this kind of language, the warm, human, emotionally intelligent kind, is some of the most important English you will ever learn. And it's also some of the hardest to catch when you're listening, because it's subtle. It's woven into everyday conversation. It doesn't always announce itself, but once you know what to listen for, you'll start hearing it everywhere. This is a B1 level listening practice, which means you already have a solid foundation in English. You know the basics. You can follow conversations. You understand the main idea of what people say. But today, we're going to go deeper. We're going to focus on something that doesn't usually come up in textbooks: the emotional language of encouragement. The real phrases that real people use when they want to lift someone up, push someone forward, or remind someone that they're capable of more than they think. This kind of language is alive. It breathes, and it's one of the most distinctly human things about the way English speakers communicate. By the end of this lesson, you're going to be able to recognize motivational language when you hear it, understand what it really means in context, and start using these expressions naturally in your own conversations. You're also going to get a deep sense of the emotional intelligence behind the language, not just what the words mean, but why they work, why certain sentences change how people feel, why some encouragement falls flat, while other encouragement actually moves people forward. Does that sound good? Great. Then let's get started. Before we jump into our main listening practice, I want to take a moment to set the scene for you. Imagine two people. Let's call them Marcus and Diana. Marcus is in his late 20s. He moved to a new city about a year ago to start a new chapter in his life. He's been taking evening classes to improve his professional skills, and he was really excited about it at first. He had big plans. He imagined himself finishing the course, getting promoted, feeling confident and capable. But lately, he's been feeling really overwhelmed. The work is harder than he expected. He's behind on some assignments. His full-time job is exhausting. And honestly, he's been thinking about quitting. Not because he doesn't care, but because caring so much and still struggling feels worse somehow than not trying at all. You know that feeling? A lot of people do. Diana is Marcus's older sister. She's been through her own storms, and she's someone who has a real talent for saying exactly the right thing at exactly the right time. She doesn't panic when people are struggling. She doesn't give empty pep talks. She listens carefully, thinks before she speaks, and then says something that lands exactly where it needs to. Today, The two of them are sitting at a coffee shop near Marcus's apartment. It's a Tuesday evening. Marcus just got off work, and he looks tired. Not just physically tired, tired in a deeper way. The kind of tired that comes from carrying something heavy for too long without putting it down. He just told Diana that he's thinking about giving up on his classes. And what Diana says next is going to be full of the kind of encouraging, motivational language that we want to study together. I'm going to read you their conversation. Don't worry about understanding every single word right away. Just listen. Pay attention to how the words feel. Think about the emotion behind them. We'll go through everything in detail after you listen. Ready? Here we go. Marcus sat across from Diana with his hands wrapped around his coffee mug, staring down at the table. He hadn't touched his drink yet, even though they'd been sitting there for almost 10 minutes. Diana could tell something was wrong before he even opened his mouth. She'd known him his whole life. She recognized the slope of his shoulders when something was weighing on him. "I don't know, Diana," Marcus finally said, his voice quieter than usual. "I've been thinking about dropping the course. It's a lot. Between work and everything else, I feel like I'm constantly falling behind. And I keep wondering, what's the point? Maybe I'm just not cut out for this." Diana put her cup down slowly. She didn't rush to speak. She took a breath, and then she leaned forward just a little. The way she always did when she wanted Marcus to know she was really listening and not just waiting for her turn to talk. "Marcus," she said calmly, "I hear you. And I'm not going to pretend that what you're going through isn't hard. Because it is. But can I say something honestly?" She waited. Marcus nodded, still not meeting her eyes. "I think you're being way too hard on yourself right now. The fact that you're still showing up, even when it's difficult, that tells me a lot about who you are. More than any test result or assignment grade ever could." Marcus shook his head slightly. "Showing up doesn't feel like enough when you're still failing." "But you're not failing," Diana said, and there was a firmness in her voice now. Not harsh, but steady. The kind of steady that's hard to argue with. Struggling is not the same thing as failing, Marcus. Those are two completely different things. Failing would be giving up right now, when you're actually so close to a breakthrough. Struggling means you're in the middle of something real. And real things take time. Big, worthwhile, life-changing things always take longer than we expect. That's not a problem. That's just how growth works. Marcus was quiet for a moment. He looked up at his sister. "You really think I can do this?" he asked, and his voice was smaller now, younger somehow. Like the question had been sitting in him for weeks, and he'd finally let it out. Diana smiled. Not a big, dramatic smile. Just a quiet, confident one. "I don't just think it," she said. "I know it. I've watched you work through harder things than this, Marcus. Remember when you first moved here? You didn't know anyone. You barely had a plan. You had one bag, one phone, and one idea. And you built everything from that. Step by step. You always figure it out." She paused and let that land before continuing. "This is the same thing. You just can't see the whole path yet. But it's there. I promise you, it's there." Marcus exhaled slowly. Something in his shoulders seemed to soften. Not all the way, but enough. "What if I fall behind again?" he asked. "Then you catch up," Diana said simply. "That's what catching up is for. You don't have to be perfect every step of the way." Nobody is. You just have to keep moving. One assignment at a time. One day at a time. That's it. That's the whole strategy. Show up. Do what you can. Trust the process. It sounds so easy when you say it, Marcus said, almost laughing now. Almost. I know it doesn't feel easy, Diana said gently. And I'm not pretending it is. But here's the thing. Easy and possible are not the same thing. This is hard, and you can still do it. Both things are true at the same time. That's not a contradiction. That's just life. Marcus finally picked up his coffee and took a long sip. He was quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet now. Not the heavy, tired quiet from before. The kind of quiet that follows something important being said. Something had shifted, even if Marcus couldn't quite name it yet. Okay, he said eventually. I'll give it one more month. Diana raised her cup slightly, like a small toast between just the two of them. That's all I'm asking. One more month, and I promise you, you're going to look back at this conversation one day and be really glad you made that choice. All right, that's the end of our main conversation. Now, let's do what we came here to do. Let's pull this apart and really understand the language Marcus and Diana used, especially the motivational and encouraging expressions, because that conversation was absolutely packed with them, and I want to make sure you catch every single one. Let's start at the very beginning, with the first really important phrase that Diana used. She said, "I hear you." Now, in English, when someone says, "I hear you," they're not talking about the physical act of hearing sound. They're using it emotionally. It means, I understand what you're going through. I see your struggle. I'm taking your feelings seriously. This is one of those phrases that immediately creates a sense of connection between two people. When someone feels heard, they feel safe. And when they feel safe, they're more open to receiving encouragement. So, I hear you is actually the perfect way to start a motivational conversation, because it shows the other person that you're not dismissing their feelings. You're not skipping past the hard part. You're staying in it with them just for a moment before you help them through it. Here's something really interesting about this phrase. It can be used in all kinds of situations. You can say it to a friend who's stressed at work. You can say it to a family member who's going through something difficult. You can even say it in professional settings, to a colleague who's frustrated with a project, or to a client who's unhappy with something. It works because it's simple, it's sincere, and it requires nothing from the other person except to be seen. Here's a quick practice for you. Think about a time when someone said, "I hear you" to you, or when you needed to hear it. How did those words feel? Notice that the phrase is short, only 3 words, but the emotional weight of it is enormous, and that's something really worth paying attention to. In English, sometimes the most powerful things are said in the fewest words. Simplicity in emotional language is almost always more effective than complexity. Now, let's talk about the next key phrase Diana used. She said, "I'm not going to pretend that what you're going through isn't hard, because it is." This is incredibly important and actually quite sophisticated for B1 level, so let's slow down here. Diana is doing something very deliberate. She's validating Marcus's experience. She's not saying, "Oh, don't worry, it's not that bad," or "You're overreacting," or "Other people have it much worse." She's saying, "What you feel is real. What you're experiencing is genuinely difficult, and I acknowledge that fully, without qualification. In motivational language, this step, the validation step, is crucial. If you skip straight to "you can do it," without first acknowledging the difficulty, people often don't believe you. They feel like you don't really understand their situation. They feel like your encouragement is generic, not personal. But when you start with honest validation, your encouragement becomes much more powerful because it's grounded in reality. Diana is essentially saying, "I see how hard this is, and I still believe you can get through it." That "and" is everything. Not "but," which minimizes what came before it. Just "and," which holds both truths equally. Let's keep going. One of the most memorable things Diana says in the whole conversation is this: "Struggling is not the same thing as failing, Marcus. Those are two completely different things." Oh, this one is so good. Let's really dig into it. In English, and really in life, a lot of people confuse these two ideas. They think that because something is hard, they must be doing it wrong. They think that because they're not perfect, they must be failing. They see every stumble as evidence of fundamental inadequacy. Diana is drawing a really clear line here between two very different states: struggling, which is temporary and normal, and actually a sign that you're attempting something worthwhile, and failing, which she defines not as making mistakes, but as giving up entirely. This kind of reframing is a powerful motivational tool. Reframing means taking a situation and looking at it from a different angle, like turning a painting to face the light differently. And when Diana does this for Marcus, she's helping him see himself differently. He's not a failure. He's a person in the middle of a struggle. That's completely different. And it's a distinction that can genuinely change how someone feels about their situation. Once you stop calling yourself a failure and start calling yourself someone who's struggling, something shifts. The shame goes down, the pressure goes down, and you can breathe again. Now I want you to practice this kind of reframe in yourself. Think about something in your own English learning journey that has felt frustrating. Maybe you struggle with pronunciation. Maybe you can't remember vocabulary fast enough. Maybe you make grammar mistakes when you speak, even the ones you've reviewed 100 times. Now, try saying this to yourself. Struggling with pronunciation is not the same thing as being bad at English. Those are two completely different things. Say it out loud if you can. Notice how it feels different from thinking of yourself as someone who is bad at English. That's the power of motivational language, even when you use it on yourself. It can change not just how you feel, but what you do next. Let's continue with the conversation. Diana also says, "Failing would be giving up right now, when you're actually so close to a breakthrough." There are two things I want to highlight here. First, the phrase "so close to a breakthrough." A breakthrough is that moment when everything suddenly clicks, when you've been working hard at something for a while, and then suddenly it gets easier. It all starts to make sense. The pieces fall into place. It's one of the most satisfying feelings in any kind of learning. Diana is planting a seed in Marcus's mind. There's something amazing just around the corner. He just can't see it yet, because he's standing too close to the wall. This is classic motivational language, pointing toward the future reward to help someone stay in the present challenge. The second thing I want you to notice is how Diana structures the sentence. Failing would be giving up right now. She's redefining failure. In Marcus's mind, failing meant not understanding the material, falling behind, struggling to keep up. But Diana redefines it as giving up. Suddenly, the thing Marcus is considering, quitting, becomes the actual failure, whereas what he's currently experiencing, struggling, is just the middle of a story that hasn't ended yet. Now, let's talk about one of the most emotionally charged moments in the whole conversation. Marcus asks Diana directly, "You really think I can do this?" And Diana says, "I don't just think it. I know it." Let me tell you why this is such a beautiful and powerful answer. When someone says, "I think you can do it," that's nice. It's supportive. But there's uncertainty built into the word think. I think means this is my best guess, my belief, my opinion. I know is something else entirely. Know expresses certainty. It says, I am so confident in you that there is no doubt in my mind. It doesn't feel like hope, it feels like fact. And sometimes, when we can't believe in ourselves, we need to borrow someone else's certainty for a little while. Diana is offering that to Marcus. She's saying, "Here, take my confidence. Use it until yours comes back. It's yours." And then Diana does something else that's really smart. She backs up her certainty with evidence. She says, "I've watched you work through harder things than this. Remember when you first moved here? You didn't know anyone. You barely had a plan. But you figured it out. Step by step. You always figure it out." This is so important. When you want to encourage someone, it's much more powerful to remind them of something they've already done than to just say something nice about the future. Diana is essentially creating a highlight reel of Marcus's past resilience. She's saying, "You have proof. Your own history is the proof. Look at what you've already survived and overcome. You did all of that. So why would this be any different?" This is a technique you can use with yourself, by the way. When you feel like giving up on your English, instead of focusing on what you don't know yet, try reminding yourself of what you've already learned. Think about how much better you are today than you were 6 months ago. A year ago. That progress is real. It's evidence. And evidence is one of the most powerful motivational tools there is. Moving along in the conversation, Marcus asks, "What if I fall behind again?" And Diana's answer is beautifully simple. She says, "Then you catch up. That's what catching up is for." I love this response because it completely dismantles the anxiety of the hypothetical. Marcus is worried about a problem that hasn't happened yet. And Diana's answer is essentially, and if it does happen, there's already a solution built into the situation. You catch up. No drama, no catastrophe, no need to spiral into worst-case scenarios. Just, if you fall behind, you catch up. Simple, practical, human. This kind of calm, grounded encouragement is incredibly effective because it makes the scary things seem manageable. Because it is manageable. The phrase "catch up" is worth practicing on its own. It means to reach the same level as someone or something else after falling behind. I missed a week of class and had a lot of catching up to do. I've been on holiday, so I need to catch up on my emails. Don't worry, you'll catch up. It carries a naturally reassuring quality. Just the phrase itself implies that it's doable. Then Diana says something that's become one of my favorite lines in this whole script. Easy and possible are not the same thing. Can we just sit with that for a moment? Because this is genuinely one of the most honest and encouraging things one person can say to another. She's not pretending the journey is easy. She's not being falsely cheerful. She's being completely real. This is hard, and it is absolutely possible. Both of those things are true at the same time, and holding both of them simultaneously, without letting one cancel the other, is a form of wisdom. In English, we often use what's called a concessive structure, where you acknowledge one thing while asserting another. Diana uses this structure multiple times throughout the conversation. She keeps doing this pairing, the honest, difficult truth, paired with the firm, hopeful truth. That combination is what makes her words feel trustworthy. She's not sugarcoating anything. She's looking Marcus right in the eye and saying, "I see the full picture, and I still believe in you." That's the difference between genuine encouragement and hollow cheerleading. Now let's take a step back and look at the overall pattern of how Diana structures her encouragement throughout this conversation. Because it's not random. There's actually a very clear and emotionally intelligent structure happening here, and once you see it, you'll start to notice it in all kinds of encouraging conversations in English. Step 1 is listening and acknowledging. Diana starts by saying, "I hear you," and validating how hard things are. She doesn't minimize the difficulty. She sits in it with Marcus before trying to lift him out of it. This earns trust. Step 2 is reframing. She gently pushes back on how Marcus is interpreting the situation, distinguishing struggling from failing, redefining what failure really means, offering him a different way to see himself and his circumstances. This shifts perspective. Step 3 is providing evidence. She reminds Marcus of what he's already overcome. This creates confidence rooted in reality, not just in hope. Step 4 is painting the future. She hints at the breakthrough that's coming. This gives hope a concrete shape. And step 5 is making it simple. She breaks the path down into small, manageable steps. One assignment, one day at a time. This reduces overwhelm by making the next action feel completely doable. Watch for this 5-step pattern in real English conversations. It shows up in coaching, in mentoring, in sports, in workplaces, in families. It's the structure of genuine human encouragement. Let me take a moment here to talk about something that might seem a little different. The idea of self-talk in English. Self-talk is the conversation you have with yourself inside your own head. We all do it, in every language. And the quality of your self-talk has an enormous effect on your motivation, your confidence, and ultimately, your progress. Research in psychology has shown that people who use encouraging self-talk, the kind Diana uses with Marcus, actually perform better under pressure, bounce back faster from setbacks, and maintain higher levels of motivation over time. The fascinating thing is that this isn't just wishful thinking, it's neurologically real. The brain responds to language, even internal language, as if it's hearing it from someone else. Which means that when you say to yourself, "I've got this," or "I've come so far already," or "struggling is not the same thing as failing," your brain processes those words with the same emotional weight as if a trusted friend had spoken them to you. This is why the language we're studying today isn't just useful for talking to other people. It's also useful for the most important conversation you'll ever have, the one you have with yourself. Let's also talk about what Diana does really well in terms of attribution. She says, "You always figure it out," not "things happen to work out," or "you've been lucky." The subject is Marcus. The verb is figure it out. The agency belongs entirely to him. She's not saying things worked out for Marcus. She's saying Marcus worked things out. That's a crucial distinction. When you encourage someone, you want to give them credit for their own success. You want to attribute their good outcomes to their own choices, their own effort, their own character, not to luck, not to circumstances, not to other people helping them. This kind of attribution is incredibly validating. It says, your success is yours. You earned it. You built it. You can do it again. This connects to a really important concept in motivational psychology called the locus of control. People with an internal locus of control believe that their outcomes are largely determined by their own actions and decisions. Research consistently shows that people with a more internal locus of control are more motivated, more persistent, and more successful over time. And here's the beautiful thing. The language you use can actually influence where someone's locus of control sits. When Diana says, "You always figure it out," she's helping Marcus see himself as someone who makes things happen, not just someone things happen to. That shift in self-perception is genuinely transformative. Now I want to spend some time on vocabulary. Specifically, the motivational vocabulary that came up in this conversation and that you'll want to recognize and use in your own English. The first word is resilience. We didn't hear Diana say this word directly, but everything she describes, Marcus moving to a new city alone, building a life from one bag and one idea, figuring things out step by step, that is resilience in action. Resilience means the ability to recover from difficulties. It means bouncing back. After you get knocked down, you find a way to get up again. It's not the absence of struggle. It's the response to struggle. You might hear, "She showed incredible resilience during a really tough year," or "Building resilience takes time, but it's absolutely worth it." The second important word is perseverance, continuing to do something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. Diana is essentially asking Marcus to persevere, to keep showing up, keep trying, keep believing in the process, even when the process feels broken. His perseverance finally paid off. It takes real perseverance to learn a new language as an adult. That last one applies directly to you. What you're doing right now is genuine, admirable perseverance. The third word is breakthrough, a sudden, important development that helps you move forward after a period of difficulty. In learning, it's that moment when something that confused you for weeks suddenly makes perfect sense. You have to go through the confusion to get to the clarity. That's not a flaw in the system. That's exactly how the system works. The fourth key word is momentum, the force or energy gained by movement. In motivation, it means that the more small actions you take, the easier it becomes to keep taking them. A small win leads to another small win, which leads to another, and suddenly you have momentum. The best way to build momentum in English learning? Consistency. Small daily practice builds far more momentum than occasional big study sessions. Show up regularly. Let the momentum do the heavy lifting. The fifth word is grit, passion and perseverance for long-term goals. It's the combination of motivation and follow-through. Research has shown that grit is actually one of the strongest predictors of success, more than talent, more than intelligence, more than opportunity. When Diana encourages Marcus to keep going, she's calling on his grit. She knows he has it. She's reminding him to use it. Let me now give you a series of practice phrases with full example sentences that you can start incorporating into your own conversations. You've come so far already. Use this when someone feels discouraged about how much further they have to go. I know the course feels overwhelming, but look at how far you've already come. 6 months ago, you couldn't even follow a conversation in English. Now, look at you. Specificity makes encouragement much more believable and much more moving. Don't be so hard on yourself. Stop criticizing yourself so much. You are being harder on yourself than the situation deserves. Hey, you made a mistake. One mistake. It doesn't mean anything terrible about you. Don't be so hard on yourself. You're closer than you think. Used when someone is about to give up. I know you feel stuck, but trust me, you're closer than you think. Keep at it. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't stop. The pronunciation is getting better every week. Keep at it. I believe in you. 3 simple words. But when they come from someone who really means them, they can change everything. I believe in you, and I've believed in you for a long time. This is just a rough patch. A difficult period that won't last forever. You're going through a rough patch right now. It'll get better. It always does. You've got this. You are capable of doing this. You've got this. I know you're nervous, but you've prepared well. It won't always feel this hard. A promise that difficulty is temporary. I know English feels hard right now, but it won't always feel this hard. Every month you practice, it gets a little easier. I want to focus now on something a little more advanced. The difference between hollow encouragement and genuine encouragement. This is something that really matters in English communication. Hollow encouragement sounds like this. You're amazing. You can do anything. Just believe in yourself and everything will work out. These phrases feel good for about 2 seconds, and then they fade. Why? Because they don't engage with reality. They don't acknowledge the actual difficulty. They don't offer specific evidence or practical guidance. They're like empty calories, sweet in the moment, but not nourishing. Genuine encouragement is completely different. It acknowledges the difficulty honestly. It offers specific evidence of the person's capability. It gives a practical next step. It doesn't promise an easy path, but it does promise that the path is worth walking. Diana's conversation with Marcus is full of genuine encouragement, and that's exactly why it actually changes how Marcus feels by the end. He goes from, "I'm quitting," to "I'll give it one more month." That shift is everything. I want to also highlight the role of specificity in encouragement. Generic encouragement sounds like, "You're great. You can do it. I believe in you." These are fine, but they could be said to anyone about anything. Specific encouragement sounds like what Diana says to Marcus. "Remember when you first moved here? You didn't know anyone. You barely had a plan, but you figured it out." She's talking about something real, something that actually happened, something that only applies to Marcus. And that specificity is what makes it land. It shows that she's been paying attention, that she remembers, that she sees him not as a generic person in a difficult situation, but as Marcus, this specific person, with this specific history and these specific strengths. When you encourage people in English, try to be specific. Instead of, "You're doing really well," try, "Your pronunciation of those difficult sounds has gotten so much better. I can really hear the difference." The more specific you are, the more powerful your encouragement becomes. Now, I want to revisit one more powerful moment from Marcus and Diana's conversation. It's the very end. After everything Diana has said, Marcus finally picks up his coffee and says, "Okay, I'll give it one more month." And Diana responds, "That's all I'm asking. One more month. And I promise you, you're going to look back at this conversation one day and be really glad you made that choice." Marcus says, "One more month." Not a big dramatic declaration. Just one more month. And that's enough. Because that's how motivation really works in the real world. It's not a switch that flips and then stays on forever. It's a series of small commitments, made one at a time. One more month, one more week, one more day. And those small commitments, added together over time, become something extraordinary. Diana doesn't push for more than 1 month. She accepts the small commitment because she understands. A small yes is still a yes. And a yes today can grow into a bigger yes tomorrow. And then, she says, you're going to look back at this conversation one day and be really glad you made that choice. This is a beautiful piece of encouragement because it places Marcus's perspective in the future. It invites him to imagine himself later, wiser, more experienced, further along the path, looking back at this particular Tuesday evening in the coffee shop as a turning point. This is a technique called future pacing in motivational language. You help someone see themselves in the future having succeeded, and that vision creates emotional motivation for the action needed today. You can use future pacing yourself. One day, you're going to be so glad you didn't give up on your English. You'll look back and realize this was the moment when everything started to change. Imagine where you'll be in a year if you just keep going. These phrases invite someone to step into a better future, even just in their imagination. And that forward-looking feeling is genuinely, powerfully motivating. Now I'd like to give you a full set of new scenarios where you can see these motivational phrases in completely different situations. Imagine a young woman named Priya. She's learning to drive, and she failed her driving test for the second time. She's embarrassed and frustrated and seriously considering giving up. Her close friend Joel says, "Priya, I hear you. 2 failed tests is genuinely frustrating, and I'm not going to tell you it isn't. But here's what I want you to hear. Struggling with the test is not the same thing as being a bad driver. Those are 2 completely different things. Lots of excellent drivers failed their test more than once. You've already learned so much since the first time you took it. I've been in the car with you. You're so much better. You're closer than you think. Don't be so hard on yourself about this. Book the test again. One more attempt. You've absolutely got this." Now imagine a man named Ben, who has been trying to get promoted at work for 2 years. He's done everything his manager suggested. He's taken on extra responsibilities, stayed late, volunteered for difficult projects. And he still hasn't been promoted. His colleague Nadia says, "Ben, I want to be real with you, because I think you deserve honesty more than empty comfort. The competition is real. I'm not going to pretend it isn't. But here's what I also know. The work you've been doing is exceptional. Your manager has mentioned your contributions in team meetings twice this month. That didn't happen a year ago. That's new. That's growth. You've come so far since you joined this company. I think you're closer to that promotion than you feel right now. The question is whether you're going to be there when the door finally opens. I believe in you, Ben. I really, genuinely do. Keep at it. I want to pause here and talk directly to you, because you might be in a position a little bit like Marcus's right now. You might be in the middle of your English learning journey and feeling a little tired, a little unsure. Maybe you've been studying for months and you feel like your progress is slower than you expected. Maybe you've had moments where English felt completely out of reach. Maybe you've thought, more than once, about whether it's really worth continuing. I want to say something to you, and I mean it completely, genuinely. What you're doing is hard. Learning a language as an adult, maintaining focus, motivation, and consistency over months and years, that is genuinely, legitimately difficult. And the fact that you're here, right now, working through a long and detailed listening practice, that tells me you haven't given up. That tells me you're still showing up. And that matters enormously. The research on language learning is actually quite clear on this. The single biggest predictor of success is consistency. Not natural talent, not age, not background. Just showing up again and again, even on the days when it feels pointless. You are building something right now. Every day that you practice, every lesson that you sit through, every new phrase that you absorb, it's all going into the foundation, layer by layer. And one day, and this I can tell you with complete certainty, one day you're going to be in a conversation in English, and the right words are just going to come, naturally, without effort. That moment is coming. You just have to keep moving toward it. Now let's move into the final section of today's lesson, which is a listening comprehension check. I'm going to describe some situations, and I want you to think about what motivational phrase or expression would be most appropriate to use. Take your time with each one. The point is to practice recognizing the right language for the right moment. Situation 1. Your friend has been learning guitar for 6 months. She thinks she's terrible and wants to quit. She says, "I'm just not talented. I'll never be any good." What do you say? You might say, 6 months is such an early stage. Don't judge yourself now. It's way too soon. Struggling with guitar right now doesn't mean you'll never be good at it. Those are completely different things. 6 months in, almost everyone feels exactly like you do. The players who kept going are the ones who got good. You've got this. Keep at it. Situation 2. A colleague just gave his first presentation in English to a large team. It wasn't perfect. He mixed up some words, lost his train of thought once, and spoke too fast because he was nervous. He's embarrassed and says, "I completely fell apart. I can't believe how badly I did." What do you say? You might say, "Hey, stop. Don't be so hard on yourself. That was your first time presenting in English to a group that size. You got up there and did something most people are too afraid to even attempt. In your second language. I thought you recovered really well when you lost your train of thought. You took a breath and kept going. That takes composure. I'm proud of you. You're closer to being really comfortable with this than you think." Situation 3. A student named Yusuf has been preparing for a university entrance exam for 8 months and feels exhausted. He says, "I don't think I can do this. I've put in so much work, and I still feel unprepared." You say, "Yusuf, 8 months of preparation is real. That's not nothing. That's everything." The feeling of not being ready before a big exam is incredibly common. even for people who are very well prepared. What I know for sure is that you've done the work. You haven't taken a single shortcut. The results are going to reflect that. I believe in you. One more week. You've come so far already. Situation 4. You're talking to yourself. You've just had a really frustrating English study session. You couldn't understand the listening exercise. Your reading felt slow. You made grammar mistakes you thought you had already mastered. You feel like you're going backward. What do you say to yourself? This is the hardest one, because we're often our own harshest critics. We give other people the encouragement we refuse to give ourselves. But I want you to try this. Take a breath and say, "It's okay. One bad session doesn't erase everything I've learned. Struggling today is not the same thing as failing. I've come so far already, and I have the evidence of that. I just need to keep at it. One day at a time. One session at a time. Tomorrow I'll come back, and it'll be a little better." And then, and this is the critical part, you actually do it. You come back tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. Because that's ultimately what all the motivational language in the world comes down to. The words are just vehicles. What matters is what they inspire you to do. Before we close today, I want to give you one final practice task that you can carry into your real life. Over the next week, I want you to pay attention, really pay attention, to moments of encouragement in English. Watch movies or TV shows and listen for the phrases we talked about today. Notice when a character says, "I believe in you," or "You've come so far," or "Don't give up," or "Keep going," or "You've got this," or "I hear you." Notice how those phrases are delivered. Notice what they do in the context of the scene. And if you get the chance this week, use one. Tell a friend you believe in them. Remind a colleague how far they've come. Give someone the gift of genuine, grounded, specific encouragement. And notice how it makes them feel. And notice how it makes you feel. Because here's the final thing I want to leave you with. And I want you to really hear this. Encouragement is not a one-way street. When you encourage someone in English, when you choose those words carefully, when you think about what this particular person needs to hear, when you deliver those words with sincerity and presence, you're not just helping them. You're also deepening your own fluency. You're practicing the most human and meaningful kind of language there is. The kind that doesn't just transfer information, but transforms how people feel about themselves. The kind that connects two people across whatever distance might exist between them. The kind that lasts long after the conversation is over. That's it for today's lesson. You made it to the very end of a long and rich and detailed practice session. And honestly, I'm proud of you for that. I hope you're leaving with more than just some new phrases. I hope you're leaving with a sense of what it feels like to hear real English, emotional English, human English, and to truly understand it. Not just the words, but the meaning behind the words. The intention behind the intention. If this lesson helped you even a little, please subscribe to English in Fluency right now. Hit that button. Leave a comment below telling me which phrase from today's lesson was your favorite. Which one are you going to use first? I read every single comment, and I absolutely love hearing from this community. Share this lesson with someone who's learning English and could use a little encouragement today. And come back for our next lesson, because we have so much more to explore together. I'm Alex. Thank you for being here. Thank you for learning. Thank you for showing up. Again and again. Even when it's hard. Keep learning. Keep listening. And above all, keep going. You're closer than you think. I'll see you in the next lesson.